Before the season started, fans and analysts alike all gave their predictions for how they thought the season would go down, and included in these predictions is virtually anything and everything, from how good teams will be, to what the individual players will do, to which guys they think will break out during the year. Expectations vary greatly. This brings us to the topic of today's video, where we'll be discussing 5 players in particular who, for a variety of reasons, were popular candidates in the eyes of many to have massive breakout seasons this year, and yet through 1/3 of the season, they just haven't come close to doing so yet. These are players that showed significant glimpses of brilliance last season, which resulted in many hoping that they would be able to put it all together more often this year, but they just haven't done that. Before we start though, it turns out about 67% of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so please, if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I would also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first player we'll be discussing is the one that fits this category arguably more so than anybody else, being Jamal Murray of the Denver Nuggets. Jamal Murray went absolutely nuclear in the playoffs last season, and his stellar play was a major reason why the Nuggets made a crazy run to the conference finals before ultimately losing to the Lakers. He averaged 27 points over the course of the entire playoff run, he shot 50% from the field and 45% from 3 in that span, and he had 2 games where he scored over 50 points and another 2 games over 40 points. The level of shot creation and shot making he was putting on display was without question up there with the best in the league, so to follow that up, it's reasonable to expect him to finally take the leap into legitimate stardom in the league, and unfortunately he's still pretty much the same player he's always been. Throughout his entire career, Murray has been a player that has struggled with inconsistency, which is incredibly frustrating because one game he could drop 40 points and look as legit as possible, and the very next game he'll go out and score around 11 points and look unengaged. He's been someone that could land on a list like this for years now, because every season it seems like the same old story repeating itself. His scoring this year is actually down from a year ago, his shooting efficiency is also down from a year ago, and while I by no means think his run last year was a fluke, it does leave you wondering if he's able to sustain that level of play in a more normal atmosphere. The next player that was a popular candidate to break out this season that hasn't exactly done so is Coby White of the Chicago Bulls. White's first season was fairly inconsistent, but as is the case with virtually every young point guard ever, that wasn't much of a surprise. Young point guards, especially ones with score-first playstyles, tend to struggle with consistency, efficiency, and overall effectiveness, but their jumps from year 1 to year 2 can in many instances be huge, especially if they showed steady growth near the end of their rookie seasons, like Coby White did. Last year, White finished his season off with 20 or more points in 8 of his last 9 games, and he scored over 30 points in 3 of them, and he did all of that while coming off of the bench. Now, under a new coach this year, and having been inserted into the starting lineup, the hope was that he would continue that highly impressive momentum he built up at the end of last season, and it would result in a big year for him. But so far, his improvement has been very minimal, and a lot of it just has to do more with opportunity. Both his field goal percentage and 3-point percentage have only risen by less than 1% from his rookie year, his scoring has only increased by 2 points, and while his assists have doubled from last year, it doesn't counteract the rest of it. On top of that, he's been a mess defensively, his shooting off the dribble has been poor, and he still seems to be a few years away from reaching his true potential. The next player we'll be discussing that was expected to break out this season is Lonzo Ball of the New Orleans Pelicans. I hate to keep harping on Lonzo because I have talked about him in a few other videos, but the fact of the matter is that he does fit into the topic of today's video, and I can't just ignore that. Lonzo showed very promising improvement with his shooting last year, finishing above league average from deep along with his playmaking, passing, and defense still being as strong as ever, so now with another year under his belt, and playing alongside talented guys like Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson for another year, while also seeing Jrue Holiday depart, the hope was that he'd step into a bigger role on the team and flourish, but instead, he's been doing a lot of the same. I will admit that Lonzo has been playing much better recently in games, and he's definitely trending in the right direction as of late, but he's gotta keep that momentum going. His assists are still down from a year ago, and I do still believe that the team should be playing at a much faster pace based on the personnel that they have, because right now they're only the 24th fastest team in terms of pace out of 30 teams, which just doesn't make much sense to me. Not all of it is Lonzo's fault, a lot of it could be placed on Coach Stan Van Gundy, but he still does fall into this category regardless. The next player we'll be discussing that hasn't really taken the leap many expected from him this year is Cam Reddish of the Atlanta Hawks. Reddish is a player that seems to have all the potential in the world with impressive physical attributes, a smooth play style, solid shooting mechanics, and promising defensive potential, but as has been the case for most of his career dating all the way back to his season at Duke, he just struggles to put it all together on a night-to-night basis. Struggling with consistency and efficiency as a rookie is nothing out of the ordinary, and it's excusable, but for Reddish to actually be regressing now in year 2 instead of taking any kind of steps towards improvement is not. He's shooting a miserable 36% from the field and 25% from 3, both of which are well below league average and down from where he was last year. The Hawks came into the season with playoff expectations, and Reddish was put into the team's starting lineup because the team had confidence in him and his development, but that confidence has not yet been rewarded. There's still definitely a lot of basketball left to be played, and he has time to figure it out, but needless to say, right now, he hasn't really taken any kind of leap and has arguably taken a step backwards. And finally, the last player we'll be discussing that falls into this category is Tyler Herro of the Miami Heat. Herro really broke out in the playoffs last season as a reliable scoring option for a team that advanced all the way to the NBA Finals, and since then his stock as a player has risen fast. In terms of value, potential, and skill, he's viewed in the eyes of the Heat organization very highly, so much so that they refuse to offer him in any trade offers for potentially available stars. Now, I will say that he has embraced a bigger role and done well enough in it, and his scoring is up to 17 points per game, and he's also making a higher percent of his overall shots. But with this increased role has seen his perimeter shooting worsen, his defense gets exposed now more often, and he often turns the ball over more than he did a year ago as well as a result of this bigger role. On paper, he looks good, but in person there are still a lot of growing pains he's going to have to get over. Now, with all of the players discussed in this video, but especially with Herro, this video is not meant to be taken as a statement of these guys not being able to improve moving forward, but instead it's more just a testament to the present. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below any more players you believe fall into this category. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.